Legal shenanigans!
Once again, legal shenanigans to the tune of £5 billion, no less, /$5 billion, depending on how it goes through. This is a huge lawsuit being levied against Sony. It was initially reported back in August, or was initially filed back in August. We reported it on the channel back then, August last year, where a consumer rights campaigner, Alex Neil, filed a report. This is all written up by Digital Spy, but he's alleging that Sony have been taking too big of a cut on all the sales on their store. He says that Sony's 30% cut of all sales on the PlayStation Store results in excessive and unfair prices to consumers. Likely leading to the fact that their £70, $70 price point is now the new norm, and he has a bit of a problem with that. Now, Sony have been forcing this, or at least trying to force this out of court for the last few months. They say they've been trying to get the whole thing dismissed, citing similar 30% percentages for Nintendo and Xbox, saying that it's all competitive pricing for the industry, but it will actually now go to trial. Alex Neil says he's representing 8.9 million PlayStation users, at least in the UK, and he's leading with the idea that Sony have overcharged for digital gaming purchases by potentially as much as £5 billion over the last 6 years. And he says that if you bought something on the PlayStation Store between August 19th, 2016 and August 19th, 2022, that you could be entitled to between...
That's me?
He's talking about me. You could be entitled to between £67 and £562 if it all goes through. Sony's only response so far came in November last year, saying that they think that the whole lawsuit is flawed from start to finish, but they're yet to comment on the fact that it is going to be going through to trial. So, thoughts on this?
I love legal drama. I love it. I mean, like, it just...
We haven't got the hats for this.
The back and forth, or the little wigs.
Well, the wigs, the detective hats,
they will be like getting the wigs on for
the little bits there.
We love to have the old-timey wigs on in the UK for our legal system. Games are expensive. I want them to be less expensive. I mean, I have no idea. I know they cited, it's kind of similar, you didn't mention it there, but it's kind of similar to the Epic and Apple controversy over Fortnite, where I believe
percentage cuts per transaction.
That was 30% as well, so I believe it was.
The amount of different things that have changed in regards to a standard cut from a store holder or whatever, it was 20% for a while, now it's 30%. A lot of that stuff kind of changes over time. But like Sony are attempting to say 30% cut per transaction is standard. However, like you just said, it is kind of in flux. There is a whole conversation going on about just what is fair for the people putting the games on the store and what's actually fair for the consumers. As a wider conversation or a wider talking point, I feel like quite a lot of people, since the £70 thing came in, are just saying, look, I'll wait till it goes on sale, or I'll only get 1 or 2 games a year. Shout out to my brother-in-law who picks up like 3 games a year at this point, but largely I would say he's been priced out of that space. I feel like a lot of people have to just kind of hang back and really make sure that their money is going to be well spent, and there's a potential that this changes the balances and everything, changes the scales on this stuff, but it would then have to be applied to Xbox and Nintendo and Apple and Epic and everybody else.
I'm probably doing 3 games. I'm probably doing 3 games a year at this point, because things are very expensive. I mean, I literally took the plunge on RoboCop Rogue City as a digital thing over the weekend. Great game, by the way.
What a game.
The head explosions in that game, you guys don't know, they're great.
Grabbing a dude in first person and throwing him across a room.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me. It's a great time. However, I only digitally purchased that because I needed the convenience. I needed to pre-plan for my Sunday post-night out recovery. And getting the disc, the disc wasn't going to get here in time. I'm more of a physical media guy. But I still paid an increased price because it's more expensive on the PlayStation Store than it is to actually just purchase the disc. So, there's a convenience element to it as well. So I'm curious to see how this all shakes out. I'm kind of like resigned to the currents of inflation and stuff right now, but I do agree. I think gaming as a hobby is getting way too expensive. It's becoming more of an elite consumer activity as opposed to something that people could actually, regularly afford. You talked there about getting 3 games a year. I know people who only get like 1 or 2 games a year now, who previously were getting way more. Obviously, life responsibilities change and stuff, but also, people are getting priced out. We have a cost of living crisis going on right now. Wages aren't increasing to match all this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, for the chaos of it all, hope the dude wins. It'll be a fun time.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the dude is like a consumer rights campaigner, so obviously it's a big old thing for him. He gets to be talked about a hell of a lot. We're certainly not doing videos about Alex Neil otherwise. But so it feels like there's that kind of side of it where it's like, why isn't this being applied to Xbox and Nintendo? More of an industry-wide thing. It is a big talking point anyway. But I feel like the £70, $70, the new idea of the premium price point, we have just been forced to accept that across the last few years. Like Sony put it out there, they were going to start doing £70. £70. EA, Ubisoft, 2K, they all start doing it as well, like the NBA 2K games, the WWE games. To some degree, this generation is the £70 price point generation. But I feel like a lot of the consumer reaction to that has just been a lot of like, yeah, I guess the games are still broken, the reliability is not really there. It's not like we're paying, there's not £10 more polish going into these things. It's still, you're still getting the same standard of quality you were getting in the previous generation. It's just that now you're paying more for it. So maybe to some degree something had to give eventually. But because as someone who buys less, I buy everything. I'm sick, I'm ill, in the mind. I like to pick up every single thing.
In the mind!
In the mind! To get every single thing that's out there. But that idea of being more careful with your money, do you think that pays off? I feel like a lot of people are doing that. I'm curious what people think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I have multiple hobbies. Gaming as a whole, like, I can't keep up with as much stuff. Just for the sake, because I'm a film dude. What Culture Main channel plug there.
Yeah.
I can buy like 8 Blu-rays for one game.
Right.
Like if I'm playing my cards right, I'm being crafty with the deals. That is a lot of time, and obviously you could talk about gaming experiences overall. That's a lot of hours of content you are getting there, so you could still say that it's value for money. But at the end of the day, it's still a very expensive premium hobby. I mean, like, back in the day, we used to think that paying £40 for a game full price, that's like, that was expensive.
That was the 70, yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those where we're pushing, it's going in an interesting direction because one of the big conversations coming out this year as well, the sustainability of game development. We've talked for years about crunch and stuff. We're having that conversation now with the amount of money going into game dev, how long it's taking for games to get made, the level of technology and fidelity involved in all that. What is the financial kind of like, what is the profitability going on here? Obviously, it's the most valuable entertainment industry on the planet currently. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been answered here. I wonder how this kind of 30% taking off, digital sales stuff, how that factors in.
Yeah, that's one of the most fascinating things. And I don't know this specific quote, but Strauss Zelnick over at Take-Two, the dudes that own Rockstar and GTA and everything else, was talking about the idea of one of the more accurate ways to price a video game being based on time played, which I feel comes up every few years. The idea of, it's a movie ticket, entry fee, £8 to £10 to £12, and you watch an hour and a half or 2 hours of a thing. Hey, if we were going to charge price games the same way, we should be charging hundreds of pounds. And that idea of would an individual unit cost increase change the way the industry works in terms of the budgets, the production, the viability of different gameplay ideas, etc., or is the idea something else needs to change? Do the actual amounts of money being put into the productions as they are, is that what needs to go down and change the consumer expectation and the consumer price point? I don't know, but I feel like if you start talking about the difference in the actual entry fee, then that changes everything. And so, like you said, it's like, how much is this Sony greed or industry greed for the other companies as well, or how much is that just the lowest they could possibly charge to still give you a Last of Us 2?
What Mr. Zelnick is saying there, which is absurd by the way, given that he's swimming in a big old GTA Online money pile, that's completely impossible to implement.
I think it was very much a hypothesis.
Yeah, from my own personal perspective, I think he's talking about there, like, I think I deserve more money because we're spending a lot of money on this game. But it's also a case of like, well, you can't really, like, there's no way of enforcing that as a standard. You could then argue that like game dev time spent is more like viable as a way of measuring things, and you also have like smaller games that still take a long time to get made. It doesn't really make sense, and I don't see it. But if any game franchise could buck that model, it's going to be the biggest game of all time, which is going to be GTA 6, which...
That's one of the biggest things. Yeah. How much are they going to charge for GTA 6?
Like, or do they think that they can make their money back on GTA 6 Online? I feel like GTA Online has probably funded the projects the next like 20 years or something.
Well, I mean, we said this when Red Dead 2 came out. One of the only reasons you can get Red Dead Redemption 2 with the level of quality that it has in every single facet is because of GTA Online. Like, Rockstar are an anomaly. But yeah, if someone was going to push the boundaries of an entry fee of a unit cost, it probably would be them with GTA 6, just to see what they can get away with. We see that with various third parties in general, overcharging for things, and obviously there's a consumer backlash and things reset again. In this case, like I said before, I don't feel like there's a general pushback to the £70 price point. There's just been a relaxing of how many games the average person gets across the year. I feel like the 3 to 5 games a year thing is more standard because you need to make that stuff work. But then that has a knock-on effect with how long you want that average game to last, which leads to bloat, which leads to all the things that maybe we arguably don't want in bigger open world games that just go on and on, like I'm doing right now. So I feel like overall, this is a very interesting lawsuit to keep your eyes on, and we'll see what happens. It was first filed back in August. It's finally going to go to trial, and we'll see what shakes out. I'll put a video right here, probably about Rockstar or something.
The video's eating me up.
It's it's his head. I'm Scott Taylor from WhatCulture.com. That's been you in person. Take care, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye.